Square Enix. Square Enix, where did you go wrong? Oh wait, you're a corporation, you're a mainstream video game publisher, you were never right to begin with. But what happens when wrong gets wronger? Well, you get the latter day, the modern Square Enix, the sham, the con merchant, the scam artist, the swamp fuck. Today we're going to talk about the modern incarnation of Square Enix, especially as it regards to its most recent releases, Babylon's Fall and Chocobo Racing GP. Without further ado, let us get cracking. Whee! Ah! Ah! Oh! Ah! 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 Ooh. Oh! Oh! Oh, swings! Square Enix is poisoned, utterly poisoned, by a mercilessly wanton greed that has only grown deeper and more rotten with each passing year. It is a sick, sad irony that Final Fantasy VII was, for me, like many Europeans at the time, the first introduction to Square and the Final Fantasy series, revolving as it does around the antagonisms of a tyrannical corporation in the grip of late-stage capitalism that had put short-term profits far and above human decency. The modern-day Square Enix continues to trade off the back of Final Fantasy VII's explosive success, exploiting the game for further games, content and merch at every turn, and few media companies could have tragically missed the point of their own output as the modern-day Square Enix. The point being that corporations fucking suck and should rein it the fuck in. Indeed, the difference in avaricious cynicism between the modern-day Square Enix and the fictional Shinra Inc. is practically non-existent. I'm just saying, if dropping a huge plate of steel and concrete on top of hundreds of poor people would net Square Enix a bump in revenue, Yosuke Matsuda would pop on a record and watch from his tower with a glass in hand. Of course, Square Enix is not a militaristic energy company. Not yet. It is a mere video game publisher, and as such its harm is more or less relegated to preying on children, which with the release of Chocobo Racing GP, it most assuredly is. The recently inflicted racing game is a hive of scumfuck transactions designed to scam money out of kids as well as hardcore Final Fantasy fans, and like so many games these days, it's exactingly calculating in its psychological assault. And I know some people may roll their eyes whenever I describe such video games as psychological assault, but if you don't believe me when I describe the monetization, at least believe me when you hear the theme tune. Is that not anything other than sheer fucking violence on an intangible level? Anyway, it's become quite clear by now that Square Enix has truly embraced the slimy attitudes that Western AAA publishers have been reveling in for years, and it's functionally no different from any Electronic Arts, Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard in terms of callous exploitation of video game audiences. Leveraging powerful intellectual property and ruining the futures of prospective new franchises, Square Enix's commitment to short-term profits and predatory behaviours is worn on its sleeve, with 2022 demonstrating that commitment multiple times in just a couple of short months. What prompted me to produce this video wasn't just Chocobo Racing GP, but the fact such an awfully shameless title was released almost back to back with another Square Enix scam, Babylon's Fall. I've reviewed Babylon's Fall in another video, but in short, it's disgusting. Truly a despicable, contemptible waste of everyone's time and money. Ugly beyond words. A dreary, drab, brown, environmentally threadbare and artistically bereft hack and slash mired in repetitive, mindless gameplay. Babylon's Fall exists not to be played, but grinded in. It's such a minimum viable product of a game, buoyed along by attempts to get the player addicted to its vapid loop, rather than engrossed in anything approaching fulfilling or entertaining escapism. It's got all the usual trappings: daily login bonuses to facilitate the job-like player commitment, microtransactions informing every form of player reward, an obligatory battle pass, all baked into a game that was itself barely baked at all. It's broken and laggy on top of being boring and lethargic, frequently crashing and boasting an unstable online connection despite being multiplayer focused. It's so shallow, so dripping in cynicism, so completely, embarrassingly fucking pathetic. Truly one of the most unappealing games I've played in years. Literally, in fact, because despite being developed by Platinum Games and published by Square Enix, this piece of shit was so unwanted by customers that it launched with less than 650 concurrent players on Steam, a number which has only dropped and dropped in the days since. Ha ha ha. I'm glad it failed. But what's really struck me about Square Enix is how lately it just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it, throwing live service after live service at the wall like so much shit, seemingly uncaring as to what sticks, so long as it can swindle some cash out of marks in the process. Babylon's Fall's corpse is still warm and twitching, but Square Enix lost not a beat with the launch of Chocobo Racing GP, a game so shameless in its cash grabbery that it hits the player with a pop-up ad for its monetization as literally the very first thing it fucking does, desperately appealing to players with the promise of popular playable Final Fantasy characters in exchange for yet more money. Its business structure very accurately mirrors that of a generic mobile free-to-play game, despite being a $50 purchase. There's a free version, but it's so restricted that it serves only as a gameplay demo instead. The full game is drowned in everything that makes mainstream gaming a pitfall for your wallet: login bonuses, multiple currencies, premium items, and a goddamn fucking battle pass. Remember years ago when I predicted that battle passes would be in fucking everything? I do so hate being right about this sick little industry. Anyway, Chocobo GP is a far better game at its core than Babylon's Fall, but in a way that makes it worse. The game is tragically fun, a rock-solid kart racer that I think I'd love if everything about its player progress wasn't inherently designed to push the microtransactions. Anything you could unlock without paying involves a shitload of grinding, with a pittance of currency earned in racing, and all the really fun stuff gated behind in-app purchases. What's even worse is that it's a game with a family-friendly aesthetic, pushing cute plush pals as a way to lure in children before preying on them for all they're worth. Very much like 2021's hateful Pokemon Unite, a popular IP is being utilised specifically to harm children, and as we've discussed on this show before, microtransactions are, indeed, yes, harmful, ableist, and goddamn reckless. I dare say Chocobo Racing is destined for far more success than Babylon's Fall, and will inflict plenty of damage as it acquires such success. Square Enix has been doing this endlessly, with scads of greedy mobile games and constant live service grinders, just like Marvel's fucking Avengers. Year on year, it seems the company just wants to keep releasing money traps. For me, the writing was on the wall with Square way back in 2013, almost 10 years ago, with the release of a mobile game that still remains among the most repugnant I've ever played: Final Fantasy All the Bravest. FF80B took shamelessness to a whole new level, a game that played itself, foreshadowing future predators such as Raid Shadow Legends. ATB was designed around excessively long cooldown times, with waiting periods that could be sped up by spending money. One of the earlier skip the grind ploys. It was such a shallow game, featuring so little player input that it barely qualified as a game on its own merit. It's just massive armies of player characters that mindlessly mindlessly hit monsters over and over and is made up of mostly recycled assets. You're paying for glorified gifts. More iconic Final Fantasy characters were on sale, because of course, and the whole thing stood as a shining example of what all of this microtransaction-led gaming is when you strip away anything resembling fun. It's just a grind, a churn, a goddamn fucking commitment that demands money for the privilege of giving you a job to do. I'm loath to call All the Bravest a game. It was a cash transfer system. Money laundering, if I want to be a bitch about it, which I do. It was a piece of software designed for you to simply give Square Enix money. That's all it was. It's still, in my opinion, one of the worst games ever made, and it signalled to me the trajectory of Square Enix. Since then, it's only gotten more brazen, more open, and its embrace of the live service business model in recent years has only gotten tighter. Square Enix is truly lost to capitalism poisoning. This was made all the more clear with the rise of cryptocurrency, and Square Enix is almost immediately glomming onto NFTs. The nasty fucking things, fake property that have only been popular among investors, scam artists, and those susceptible to Ponzi schemes, are an open scam that we've criticised many times, and Square Enix is all about it. At the beginning of this year, Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda published that horrifying letter we all had to read, the one in which he sneered at those who played games to have fun and instead lauded those who played to contribute, signalling that from now on he wants crypto games that truly are jobs aimed around turning gameplay into literal labour that mostly profits executives under the guise of profiting the player. The company's already been raking in obscene amounts of cash from the sale of NFTs, each sale of course having a detrimental impact on the environment, and it has no plans to stop. If there was any doubt that Square Enix was an unrecognisable monster, its recent obsession with the metaverse and all its nightmarish bollocks should have erased it. Square Enix is beyond saving. If its executives had any humanity in them to begin with, it's long since evaporated, boiled away by the radioactive trash fire that is corporate greed. Sure, it pumps out a good game now and then still, but even those will find a little extra way to eke money out of already paying customers, and in between such releases are multiple titles like Marvel's Avengers, like Babylon's Fall, like Chocobo Racing GP, and the constant awful mobile scams. Square Enix is a fucking disaster, and it should fucking stop. I'm genuinely annoyed that Chocobo Racing GP is as good as it is. Babylon's Fall, you can point at that and you can laugh, but Chocobo Racing GP is genuinely, at its core, a good video game, brutalized and vandalized in order to support a microtransaction-led economy. And that is worse than if the game had just simply sucked. It's especially bad for someone like me, who has gone on the record about their various mental issues and how microtransactions in video games exploit them. I'm someone who can't get into a game that pushes microtransactions that hard, because eventually the lure will be too much. So I'm going to enjoy playing the game for as long as I can, and it won't be long. Still, I've got Elden Ring, and there's nothing sketchy about the developers of Elden Ring. We'll be talking about From Software next week. Thank God for me in the meantime.